Oh please, my stepmother laughed, swirling wine in my father's crystal glass. I'm keeping the house, the business, and every bank account. The room went silent. Then she looked at me slow, cruel, and added, "You keep yourself. I'm not raising another man's children." Grief doesn't scream. It suffocates. 3 days ago, I buried my father. Today, she buried whatever innocence I had left. Hi everyone. My name is Adrian Vale. And that was the moment I decided to lose everything, on purpose. The lawyer sitting beside me shifted uncomfortably. My father's office still smelled like his cologne, cedarwood and old leather. His chair was still warm from memory. And she sat in it like she'd been waiting her whole life. "I'll contest the will," my lawyer whispered urgently. "We can freeze assets. She can't just take it all." But I didn't look at him. I looked at her. Her red nails tapped against the mahogany desk. Confident. Victorious. Already spending money she hadn't secured yet. And I nodded. Give her everything. Her smile widened. She thought I surrendered. But what she didn't understand was this. My father never built anything without a contingency. And I was his son. The game had just begun. And I had already moved first. "The firm needs immediate transfer signatures," she said, standing up from my father's chair as if it were custom made for her ego. I signed. Every document. House. Company shares. Primary accounts. My lawyer stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Grief does that, it turns men into ghosts. She leaned down, voice dripping with victory. "You're smarter than you look." No. I was quieter than she expected. I walked out of that office with nothing but my father's old watch on my wrist, the only item not listed in any document. She didn't notice it. She was too busy counting what she believed she had won. The elevator doors closed. My reflection stared back at me, hollow eyes, steady breath. My phone vibrated. It was Mr. Calloway. My father's private counsel. The one she didn't know existed. "It's done," I said. A pause. Then he answered softly, "Good. She signed every transfer authorization?" "Yes." Silence. Then the quietest words I'd ever heard. Then trigger phase 2. Upstairs, she was probably opening champagne. Downstairs, I stepped into the cold air. The sky was gray. Storm coming. And she had no idea she had just signed herself into it. Sometimes surrender is the sharpest weapon. The next morning, she strutted into my father's firm like a crowned queen. I wasn't supposed to be there. But I was. Across the street. Watching. The building bore my father's name in gold letters, Vale and Harrington Financial. She'd already ordered the Harrington removed. Her maiden name restored. History rewritten in under 24 hours. Inside, I knew exactly what was happening. Because phase 2 wasn't loud. It was surgical. At 9:17 a.m., her personal assistant rushed into her office. At 9:23, the bank flagged irregularities. At 9:41, the primary holding account froze. By 10:02, 3 major clients had withdrawn pending investments. She called my lawyer first. Then she called me. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked into the building. The lobby was tense. Employees whispering. Screens flickering with red notifications. When she saw me step off the elevator, her face tightened. "What did you do?" I smiled gently. "Nothing." Technically, that was true. She did it herself when she transferred ownership without reviewing the buried clauses my father had embedded into the corporate charter. Control without operational clearance. Assets without authority. Ownership without access. Her phone rang again. This time, it wasn't the bank. It was federal compliance. And that's when the color drained from her face. She had inherited a throne wired with explosives. Her hands trembled as she answered. Yes, this is Evelyn Vale. Pause. Her posture stiffened. I could almost hear the words bleeding through the receiver. Audit. Emergency review. Capital misrepresentation. She shot me a look like I had personally dialed the universe against her. What is happening? She demanded once she hung up. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. When Dad structured the firm after the 2008 collapse, he installed a defensive clause. Any majority transfer triggers an automatic compliance review. Her lips parted. You knew. I hoped you'd read before signing. She staggered backward into the glass wall of her office. Employees were pretending not to watch. But everyone was watching. Another call came in. Her personal accounts temporarily restricted. Because the company accounts had been tied to her new executive authorization. She tried to laugh. This is temporary. Of course, I said softly. But it wasn't. Because Mr. Calloway entered the building at that exact moment, briefcase in hand, face pale. He wasn't smiling. He walked straight past me. Straight into her office. And closed the door. 10 minutes later, her scream echoed through the floor. Not loud. But broken. I leaned against the hallway wall and checked my father's watch. Tick. 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 Revenge isn't fire. It's timing. And hers had just run out. The office door flew open. Her mascara had smudged. Her composure gone. You set me up, she hissed. Mr. Calloway followed behind her, adjusting his glasses, visibly distraught. Evelyn, he said carefully, you transferred the firm into your sole executive authority. That activated the dormant liabilities. Liabilities, she whispered. He nodded grimly. Your late husband personally guaranteed several silent partnerships. They were safe under joint trusteeship. Under solo control, they're immediately collectible. Her knees almost buckled. How much? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. She looked at me. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. I simply held her gaze. You gave me nothing, she said faintly. No, I replied calmly. You took everything. And that was the difference. Security escorted her to a private conference room as calls kept flooding in. Creditors. Regulators. Investors demanding clarity. By afternoon, the news had begun circulating in financial circles. Unstable transition. Leadership concerns. Possible insolvency. She tried to call me again. This time I answered. Yes? Her voice was smaller now. Fix it. I closed my eyes briefly. And for the first time since my father's funeral, I felt peace. You told me to keep myself, I said quietly. I am. And I hung up. Sometimes the only inheritance worth keeping is dignity. By evening, the board had convened an emergency session. Technically, she was still majority owner. But operational authority had been suspended pending review. She sat at the head of the table, the same chair she had claimed days ago, but now it looked too large for her. I entered quietly. Not as heir. Not as victim. As consultant. Mr. Calloway presented the final document. Clause 47B, he explained. In the event of destabilizing ownership transfer, minority bloodline stakeholders may reclaim executive oversight. Her head snapped toward me. Bloodline? I met her stare. My father never removed my shares. They were small. Strategic. Enough. The vote was swift. Unanimous. Temporary reinstatement. Me. She laughed weakly. This is absurd. No, I said, taking the chair across from her. This is structure. She had chased control. I had protected legacy. Overnight, I stabilized accounts. Reassured clients. Paused collections. Because unlike her, I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to preserve what my father built. When the meeting ended, she remained seated. Alone. I paused at the doorway. You could have shared it, I said quietly. Her voice cracked. I deserved it. No, I replied. You married into it. And I walked out. Power taken feels heavy. Power earned feels light. The investigation concluded within weeks. No criminal findings. Just catastrophic mismanagement triggered by reckless consolidation. Her personal guarantees remained. The house? Leveraged against company debt. The accounts? Liquidated to satisfy obligations. One by one, the illusions dissolved. She moved out quietly. No dramatic exit. No shouting. Just silence. I watched from the driveway as movers carried furniture past the same doorway where she once declared victory. She noticed me. For a moment, we stood across from each other, not enemies. Just consequences. You planned this, she said softly. I shook my head. Dad did. A long pause. You could have warned me. I did, I answered. She remembered. Give her everything. It had sounded like surrender. It had been strategy. As her car pulled away, the house looked different. Lighter. Not because she was gone, but because my father's name would remain on the firm. Untouched. Untarnished. I checked his watch again. Still ticking. Still steady. Like him. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt like his son again. Months later, the firm stabilized stronger than before. Clients returned. New partnerships formed. We restructured ethically. Transparently. No hidden traps. No silent clauses. Just discipline. One afternoon, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single line in her handwriting. I didn't know he loved you more. I stared at it for a long time. She was wrong. He didn't love me more. He trusted me more. Love is emotion. Trust is responsibility. I folded the letter and placed it inside my father's desk drawer, not as a trophy, not as revenge, but as closure. If this ever happened to you, say same in the comments. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's restraint. She wanted everything. I kept myself. And in the end, that was everything.